The Guardian's Middle East correspondent Martin Chulov just returned from a trip into northern Syria. He says that the U.S. threats of a strike are only widening divisions within the country's rebels. He joins me now on the line from Istanbul, Turkey. Martin, you're just back there from northern Syria. I read your reporting, and I found very interesting how among the Islamist rebels, there seems to be some concern about these upcoming American strikes on Syria.
There certainly is, Hala. It's quite a diverse picture in the north, very different to when I was last there a few months ago. The mainstream opposition groups are enthusiastically welcoming the prospect of US airstrikes, which they believe will degrade the Assad army's capabilities and potentially allow them to make advances in areas in which have long become grinding stalemates. There's been very, very little movement in the north when it comes to the opposition versus the regime over the last 6 months or so. So they're very keen for the Americans to launch an attack as soon as possible so they can get things rolling. On the other hand, however, the jihadist element of the opposition, which is smaller, but it is growing, and it is disproportionately powerful, it believes that the Americans are intending to attack them. These are the Al-Qaeda groups and their affiliates. They think that the talk of attacking the regime is actually a pretext to go after them to conclude some unfinished business from Iraq. And they've been busily evacuating their bases, moving their personnel to farms and factories, hiding their cars and cow sheds, and really starting to behave just as they were back in Anbar in 2004 through 2007. They're very much on edge.
All right, and one of the other interesting points that you make in some of your reporting back from Aleppo as well is these black flags, the black Al-Qaeda type flags, are actually flying over some government, ex-government public buildings in Aleppo, which sounds unthinkable to anyone who knows Syria, who was there just a few years ago, that this could be happening there.
Yeah, they're very, very visible. The Al-Qaeda flags are over most checkpoints. There are black banners being painted on walls of schools and other civic buildings. Advertising hoardings have been painted in the same banner and over mosques as well. It doesn't mean that the communities in which these flags are flying accept the ideology of Al-Qaeda. It seems to be more so that they can't be seen to be doing anything against them at this point. They can't afford to open up a second front when the battlefront with the Assad regime is so active. They said to me numerously that we can't fight both at the same time. We have to finish the regime first. And despite the fact that Al-Qaeda is certainly trying to hold sway amongst elements of the community and have indeed succeeded in some areas, that this revolution continues as it was, and that is a bid to oust Assad and reorientate a nation-state. It is not, as they say, a key battleground for a global jihad.
Right. That's interesting that if the Assad regime is out of the equation, then can we expect in certain provinces in Syria a battle between rebel factions?
Well, it's heading that way, and it has been for quite some months. There is a very uneasy, I wouldn't even say calm, but sort of a tension between the groups, between the jihadist elements and the opposition, the mainstream opposition. They do cooperate in some operations. They have as recently as last month, where an airfield just up near the Turkish border was taken. So there is some ongoing military cooperation, however reluctant that might be. But at the grassroots level, there's very much a clash of ideologies and a clash of a belief about what the character of this revolution is. There are all sorts of flashpoints over operations, over spoils of battle, over many things. And while I was in Aleppo yesterday, there was a Kurdish group came to see the group that I was with, a mainstream group, to report that they'd had to arrest an Al-Qaeda emir and basically give him a beating because he'd been overplaying his hand in the community in which he decided he was now a prince. So lots of these things, lots of these encounters are now popping up, and there is a real risk, as I see it, of both sides engaging in some kind of internecine warfare. Although both of them do know that if they did do that, that the original cause would be lost. So that as much as they don't like each other, don't trust each other, they're trying very hard to keep away from each other's throats.
All right, Martin Chulov, thanks so much for joining us. Glad you're out safely.